out there, there wasn't anything for him to find. He looks around, and that was the end of it, you know. And now that guy's name, which I have redacted for anybody looking for it, I'm not going to help you find this guy. But now his name is a matter of public record attached to a monster sighting, and that can be pretty dangerous because, frankly, it's not taken very seriously. And if you have a professional career or even aspire to one, you really don't want your name attached to something like that.
Not even that, just being on a police report that you reported some cryptic creature, right? Let's say something ever happens, but you get in trouble for something else. They're going to pull up your background, right? The first thing they're going to think, oh, this guy's a fruitcake. And then you're going to have a hard time trying to prove whatever you're trying to prove that you were, innocent. Because they're going to look at you and label you as a nut. That's as simple as that.
I think that's one of the advantages of having a blog or being able to put or post stories about people's accounts. That gets out into the ether, so people see it, they remember something that's been bugging them for a while now. So they take it upon themselves to add you to their story by telling you about it. And, you give them anonymity and, you bring them into your confidence. And, that's how we get these reports. Mm-hmm. And, we heard I heard a lot of flack about when these sightings in the Chicago area started cropping up. We were getting complaints from other investigators who were upset we weren't releasing witness information because they wanted to look into it themselves. Well, I wasn't going to do that, and I know Tobias would never do that. That's just something you don't do. But, man, we really heard it, and we heard it from well-known investigators as well, which really perturbed me more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really unfortunate situation, and I will tell you, it seemed to me as much as anything that a lot of that was about people trying to make the investigation about themselves, which is a very easy trap for people to fall into. But, if you're in this to find celebrity or make a name for yourself, or really any other reason other than that you have a very honest interest in these phenomena and that you want to help people, then, frankly, stay away from me. I don't want people like that associated with any investigation that I'm a part of, because the fact is, when I first started in this investigation, I was covering it journalistically. Really Lon and Manuel Navarrete over at UFO Clearinghouse were receiving the majority of the reports, and after I had been covering it that way for, it wasn't very long, it was a matter of a few weeks, I was brought into the actual investigation. And then after that, I was able to follow up with some of the witnesses and stuff, but I was never forceful about it, because the fact is, I was able to speak to Lon, I was able to speak to Manuel, and initially, they were able to answer my questions to my satisfaction. And, Lon's absolutely right. This entire field hinges on trust and credibility, because you have to be able to offer witnesses anonymity. And so, when I would, speak to these guys and have my questions answered, like that was good enough, and it has to be good enough, because if you want to start burning your witnesses by giving out their information, you're never going to have anybody who's ever going to want to talk to you. I mean, it's a betrayal of trust. And if you're in this for the right reasons, and you don't care about making an investigation about yourself to get famous, then you're okay with that. And if you're not okay with it, then I think, that tells me everything that I need to know about somebody, honestly.
Well, people don't also realize the money, the time, and all the energy you put into what you do. And I take it, if I remember right, Tobias, you used to be connected with MUFON. Weren't you as an investigator for a while?
Yeah, when I first started out really investigating, I started as a volunteer MUFON field investigator. And, it was a very big time commitment, even that. And that was a volunteer, situation. So, there was a certain amount of dedication that was necessary, because the fact is, that you're not making any money off of that. In fact, it's usually costing you quite a bit of your own money, and you do it because you're passionate about it, and you do it because you care, and you do it because you want to help people who have witnessed things that are life-changing, and they don't know where else to go.
Well, let's face it, if you go to a lot of these UFO groups, for example, because I have some people, that's been on my show that, claim that they have seen Bigfoot or other, Mothman and stuff like that. Their first mistake is they didn't know where to go. So they figured, I'll get a hold of one of these groups on UFOs. Big mistake. I hate to say it. You got to find something if it's anything cryptic, you want to find somebody who's authority on cryptics. You just don't go to somebody, who claims that they're an investigator for, finding UFOs and aliens. Seriously, it's two different things. And I hate to say it, even the different groups, they're like Bigfoot versus Mothman groups and all this stuff, they have this little war between themselves. Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah, we noticed it. We run into that all the time, unfortunately. MUFON in particular, if it's not a craft or something associated with an unidentified flying object, then they're just not going to investigate it. And, they may get initial reports of something. This phenomenon in Chicago was actually started by reports coming into MUFON, and they just did not investigate it. And we were lucky enough to get at least one of these witnesses to come forward to us. And in the meantime, since that time, we've had others. But this is something that I've been dealing with for a long time. I have had many experiencers who have had, encounters with otherworldly beings or strange cryptids, or and have reported to MUFON, and just were very dissatisfied with what they got as a response. So eventually they'd come to us. So and if just like what you were saying before, if you think you're going to go into this field and make money, you can just forget that. That's just not going to happen. I've written 7 books, and I've got the blog, advertising, and everything else, and you're just not making any money. I rely on that, plus I rely on contributions by my readers to basically float what I do.
Yeah, people don't realize that. It's the same way with doing a talk show. I'm on 22 radio stations, and I have people say, you're making a lot of money. They don't realize radio stations don't pay to carry my show. I do have some advertising that goes on some of these radio stations, which I don't want to run through the internet. I'm trying to keep that all, advertisers free. But the cost of doing the show, the bandwidth I use, I feed out to two different companies. One I feed out to, one that goes to radio stations, and I have one that goes out through the internet. That's not free. I use a whole bunch of bandwidth each month. And the time, just like you guys, I get up in the morning and I'm here to sometimes 2-3 hours after the end of the show answering emails and taking, things. And it's because I do it for the love of it. It's not I'm trying to get rich, because that's not happening. So I can understand. You write a book. A lot of people think I'm going to become rich. I'm going to write a book on UFOs or cryptics or Bigfoot. And then they wonder why they're not making any money. In a lot of cases, I hate to say it, a lot of times they'll put a book together. And if they go to one of these, I hate to say it, there's some companies out there are not very honest. They'll lead you on. And, you're going to we'll sell a whole bunch of your books. We need $5,000 from you right now.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. If you got to pay $5,000, I would,
That's hard to do. I mean, you at this point nowadays, I think you're probably best doing it yourself for the most part. Some people who have been doing this for a long time who are well known, they can afford to do that. But many of us aren't able to do that, and to be able to to swing that. I have discovered over the years that it seems that those people who are more interested in being commercial as opposed to being investigators and researchers, that are only into this to make money, are the ones that give us more problems as far as us sharing information. It happens all the time. I have no problem involving the people I work with my investigations and people who I know with my information. But beyond that, I'm just not going to do it. I do provide the blog and I do provide the newsletter. And, I do put in there what, I have been receiving and what I investigate. But beyond that, I'm just not going to go into details. That's why I have the Fans of Entre Sportians research team. And, that's who I'm going to rely on to be the people who help me to investigate what we receive.
Oh, yeah. And that is really important. Now, we're about ready to go for a break for the radio stations. Now, Tobias, when you come back, I want you to talk about your new book and where they can find it, a little bit about your book, okay? Don't be like the guy that doesn't want to disclose anything.
Oh, Gary, I can't tell you a single thing in that book. Sorry.
Then, you know what? I'm not going to pay $19.95 for it, buddy.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, you can almost be like the salesman that talked my dad back in 1963 to buy that Chrysler Valiant. He went up to the car lot and he didn't really like the looks of the car, but the salesman was really good. Buy this car. It's so perfectly balanced you can take the front wheel off and take the jack away and the car will be perfectly balanced. You have to be a salesman besides being a good writer, plus knowing your subject. We'll be back in 3 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with me, Gary, and James Krischbaum out there somewhere. Check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Hey, if you feel generous, donate $1 or $2 to help pay for the bandwidth. We'll be back.
Scintillas in the stream, hoping for what's true. I'm trawling for honor in this shallow pool. Borealis starlit crown arches over the Puget Sound. His hand